Hey everybody. Okay, so I'm gonna walk through your subjects and verbs warm up number 2 with you right now, so you can get some answers and compare your answers to what I give you and make sure you're on the right track. So our first sentence says, this is our fill in the blank. The blank of a sentence is who or what the sentence is about. It performs an action or is identified / described by a linking verb. And that would be the subject. Woo! These are essentially the same as the last time, guys. A blank verb expresses a physical or mental action. An action verb. Yes. A blank verb connects the subject with words that describe or identify it. That would be the linking verb. A blank verb works with the main verb to make a verb phrase. You guessed it, that is a helping verb. And a blank is a form of a verb that does not function as a verb. That's a verbal. If you guys didn't get trapped by the verbals later in this activity. All right, and then common linking verbs and common helping verbs. Y'all put those in there. I'm not looking those up for you. You have notes, so go do that. The second section, this is where we highlight the subjects and the verbs, and then we determine whether those verbs are linking verbs or action verbs. We're highlighting our subjects in yellow, our verbs in green. So sentence number 1, the coach purchased new headgear and gave it to his wrestlers. Well, who is doing the action in the sentence? The coach. So coach is our subject. And then what did the coach do? He purchased new headgear. So it's the first thing he purchased. Then we have this and another verb, and gave. So he purchased and gave it to his wrestlers. Well, purchasing and giving, those are both actions. So we need to highlight this as an action verb. Yay. All right, sentence number 2. Brian and Tracy love to hunt and fish. All right, so who is doing the action in this sentence? Well, that's Brian, first off. We got Brian, he loves to hunt and fish, but also we have Tracy. Tracy also loves to hunt and fish. They are just a match made in heaven. And what is the action? They love to hunt and fish. So they hunt and fish, but that's not the action in the sentence. That's describing what they love to do. So love is actually our verb here. And love is an action verb. That is something that you do. Might be a mental action, but it is an action. All right. And lastly, painting portraits and taking pictures were 2 of my grandpa's favorite hobbies. Notice, this doesn't say grandpa's favorite hobbies were painting portraits and taking pictures. Then grandpa would be our subject. But the way that this is constructed, we have 2 subjects at the beginning that look like verbs, right? So painting portraits and taking pictures. So painting portraits is our first subject, and taking pictures is our second subject. And there's no physical action that's happening here. We have a linking verb, were. This is probably the hardest example you will have seen. That's why we went over verbals, so that you understand that painting portraits and taking pictures are not being used as verbs in this sentence. They're being used as subjects. And were is, of course, like I said, a linking verb, so we need to highlight LV. Boom. All right, so go check your answers. Make sure that this looks similar to what you have. And by similar, I mean looks exactly like what you have, because these are the correct answers. All right, the next couple, 4 and 5, you need to write your own sentence, but I'll go over a couple of examples. So number 4 says, a sentence may contain more than one subject. So we have an example here, Joe and Lisa love television. So you're going to create a sentence in the box that contains more than one subject. Yours better not look like the one that I put here, but use mine as inspiration. More inspiration than just this Joe and Lisa sentence above. I'm gonna write a sentence about myself and Miss Frank. So Miss Campbell and Miss Frank enjoy chatting about caramel sports. So we have Miss Campbell as our highlight it. Miss Campbell is our first subject, and Miss Frank is our second subject. I might also put something, I'm going to do something a little crazy, do something with some verbals, like running sprints and jumping hurdles is difficult for someone like Miss Campbell because I'm not very athletic. So running sprints is my first subject, and jumping hurdles is my second subject. And then is my verb, but it doesn't really ask you to identify the verb here. Alrighty guys, so we've got those two examples for number 4. Now let's look at number 5. Number 5 is kind of the opposite. We've already practiced having multiple subjects of a sentence. Now we're practicing including more than one verb. So the example here is the manager meandered around the locker room, spoke with his assistants, and encouraged his players. And you'll notice it's creating a list. So the manager did these 3 things. It's like a list of his actions. So we have commas in between each of those as if it were a list to set those apart. So that's just something to take note of. Your sentence might be constructed similarly. So I am going to say, I'm going to make up a person. Sally. What did she do? She swam, she biked, and ran during her, she's going to do a triathlon. That's how you spell, no, that's not, there we go. It autocorrected triathlon for me. So we've got 3 verbs. She does 3 different actions. She swims, or she swam, past tense. She biked, and she ran. There we go. Boom. 3 actions. My sentences are very, very athletic today. Let's come up with another example. Jack, that's my son, kicked and screamed because, because he could not have ice cream. And a little tantrum. So Jack, that's our subject. What did he do? He kicked. That's our first verb. And screamed. That is our second verb. Notice that I don't put a comma in between those because there's only 2. If there's more than 2, then you need commas. Looking good. Okay. Our last sentences are like little fixer-upper. What I'm going to call these are fixer-uppers. So we're editing and proofreading. This sentence contains 4 errors. It's really important when you get these that you read the number so you know what you're looking for. Also, yes, I know we're living in the age of the internet and you're doing this stuff online, so it does like try to correct some of the stuff for you. Just beware. Sometimes things don't always correct correctly. So, and I just think this is a quote, so that might be important. That might be something we need to look for. How you punctuate the quote. I'm going to paste it down here. So we've got quotation mark. In the age of the Puritans, ooh, I noticed something about Puritans right off the bat. Women were not allowed to bare their ankles, said Mr. London. Okay, So the first thing I noticed, that this quotation mark looks fine because it's something that he said. So we've got to have quotation marks around that. We've practiced that. And it says, in the age of the Puritans. Well, Puritans are a group of people, just like you would say the Americans, right? I mean, they're not like a nationality, but they are a group of people, or the Navajo, or the, trying to think of something else studied. Y'all studied this in social studies. So we capitalize them. That's what I'm trying to get at. So we capitalize the word Puritans. Then it says women were not allowed. Well, that use of allowed is like, a read aloud, something that happened where you can hear it. But I think what they're trying to say here is like allowed, like it's a rule. You can see my Grammarly add-on is already trying to fix it for me. But I'm smart, I can do this on my own. So ALLOWED. So it's just a different form. It's a homonym, right? Those words sound the same, but they're spelled differently because they have different meanings. Their ankles. Okay, and then I'm noticing that their TH should be THEIR because there are three forms of the homonym there, right? There's their, THEIR. They like it's their ankles. They own the ankles. Then there's their, like way over there, THERE. And then there's the contraction for they are. That would be THEY''RE. So we just need to make sure that we've got the correct form of there. Then we've got, I'm noticing we're missing a comma. So remember that when we introduce a quote, we put a comma before the quote begins. But also when we start with a quote, we need a comma between the last word and the end quotation marks. Very good. And it was trying to tell me for a while that it was the wrong form of bear, but I think that was just messed up. We're not talking about an animal. They don't have bear ankles, like furry animal ankles. I think that the Grammarly add-on on my computer was just confused. If you don't have Grammarly added on to your Google Chrome, feel free to. It helps you out sometimes. I do recommend it if that's something you're interested in. It's just an add-on. Like you can see my little icon up here. So if you go to your add-ons, you can find Grammarly. I use it a lot just to make sure I'm not sounding like a crazy person. But it might give you suggestions sometimes that are not correct, like the bear thing. Like it's clearly talking about naked ankles instead of furry ankles. All right, guys, I hope this was helpful. Make sure you've got yours completed. Make sure you submit yours. Make sure that your answers are correct and not just made up. And I will see you in class tomorrow for your quiz.